Today I'm going to replace the wheel bearings on my front passenger side wheel. I just did the driver's side wheel, and for that wheel I did a lot of discovery, troubleshooting, and some fumbling. So this video is going to be more dedicated to just an efficient wheel bearing swap if you know the wheel bearing needs to be done. The car has blocks on the back tire, the opposing tire. I have a lift and also a jack stance for supports, and you can see right here the clicking. I checked inside, there's drive lines and the supporting beams, the bushings, they're all, you know, they're older, but they're not that worn out. This swaying is from the bearing, just like the other side. This is not quite as bad as the other side, but it's definitely worth the switch. If you're interested in watching a video that has a whole lot more troubleshooting and discovery and the actual why the wheel bearing needs to be replaced and a little more in depth on why that's better to have it replaced and repacked, the other video on the driver's side would be more appropriate. This one, I know the wheel bearing's bad, even wear from side to side, and this one has a very similar, if not the same features, and on the freeway it does kind of waver a little bit. I'm just gonna go ahead and switch it out. Also, I'm not a certified mechanic. I'm just trying to repair a Pathfinder I've owned since 2003, and hopefully these videos will be helpful to you, but if you feel uncomfortable, always ask a mechanic. I'm gonna go over what I found really helpful to do the wheel bearing swap. First is the outside wheel bearing with a separate box for the race. The inside wheel bearing comes with the race. Maybe it's more common for those to go where the outside is not as common. I'm just gonna replace both. The hammer is helpful, eye protection, Allen wrench with a circle ball in the end. That can be helpful with removing the actual washer bits. We have an H6 hex for removing the locking hub, a 3/4 to 1/2 inch adapter, 21 millimeter, which is the same as here. It's easier to break it with a breaker bar for the wheel, but this will work fine for removing and adding the wheel. I have an extension for the 21. If I had an extended socket, I wouldn't need the extension, but I have that there. Flathead Phillips screwdriver. I've got my torque wrench and a breaker bar just for the wheels to make it easier. Lots of gloves. A bag with a rock in it. It's going to be a little bit of a windy day. Towels and stuff are flying around, so I'm just going to, when they're done, I'm going to just put them in there. That'd be easier. Grease. Hand packing works fine. I'm going to hand pack, but if you want, you can also get an actual bearing packing tool. Lots of paper towels. I'm almost out of this. I'm still getting an extra one. Got a race set to set the races. That works really well. We have brake cleaner and also PB blaster. I'm going to spray that beforehand to get released, and the actual book, which is good, but that's mainly for torque specs and just some extra visual guidance. Online you can do too, but if you have the book, that's nice. This is just to help. That's it for a moment. As the tire is touching, there's no reason I can't use this. It's so easy, and we can save a step. And I'm going to leave that cap on, mess the insides out for the actual locking hub. I don't think I will, but I don't want to take the tire off first before I... Oh, and there we go. I have my 24-inch breaker bar with a 21 millimeter socket and extension to make it easier. This kind of works out okay. I'm going to put the tire in front of the car. For this side, put the tire in the back. That should help. I'm going to do something a little different. Rather than putting the dirty parts on here, I'm going to thoroughly clean each part and place it in the right order to make sure I know how to put it back on. I've done it before, but it's always nice, and also it'll be clean and ready to re-grease and reinstall. We're going to remove the automatic locking hub hex bolts. Brake cleaner. These don't have to be super clean. Whatever I want to put on closest will be closest to the actual reassembly, where the furthest will be the last to install. Hub. Looks good. The four-wheel drive is working great, so I'm not going to inspect the automatic hub locker. Clip. Oh, okay, there we go. This is so much better. That's nice. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up right now. I think the small bits I'm not going to grease, just because if wind blows across my blue rig that's on, it could attract dirt, where if it's just clean, it'll be really easy to apply grease right before I reinstall. It should come out nice and easily. Put this back on for now. There we go. Take this piece off. And next, Phillips. Off, grease under dirt. Well, let's try this. See if this works. Also, there we go. Oh, that was nice. These pliers are neat. I know that mini pliers would work, but having the specific ball ends are really helpful for obviously C-clips or snap ring sets, but for other parts also. Let's see how tight this is. Oh, and that came off. That was okay. There was a little resistance for this knuckle ring, and this Allen wrench is working really well to get it off. So that's good. The 45-degree angle goes to the inside. There we go. That looks pretty good. To take off the top caliper of the brake, I'm going to use a 14mm and a crescent wrench. There we go. I have a bungee cord just hooked up to a hole here. Make sure there's not as much pressure on this hose. Spot where you can use brake cleaner. It's a windy day today and it's at my back, so I'm not too concerned. Outside, the inside. Eye protection here, big time. The caliper to knuckle. I'm going to use my torque wrench just because it's a little shorter, 20 inches, around 24. There we go. There we go. These are broken loose. I'm going to hook this right there. I'm going to reinstall the caliper screw as I release the knuckle screw just to hold it all together in one piece. I attach the brake and caliper right there and just hook the bungee right here and through tie rod, and that's enough. I think it will hold it in place if there's any shaking. What's working really well so far is the screwdriver. It's nice and thin, and I can just tap it in there and it helps release. I'm going to go to, this is helping to pull it away just that much further. Most likely a better way to remove the rear seal, but I used an interior tool and my crescent wrench to pop it, and it just popped off. I'm going to reuse this, so I'll go ahead and clean this up. There, that's fine. Put it over here. Good time to clean up the shaft from old grease. Yeah, kind of see how, yeah, there you go. See how they're both, that's not good. And the outside bearing, a little tighter. And this one is not slipping at all. So this one is not as bad, but since these are most likely the original factory bearings at 231,000 miles, I'm gonna replace all of it. Clean out inside before I remove the races. Get all that old grease out of there. To remove the races, in the manual it says use a brass bar. This is steel, but it still should be okay because it's not sharp on the edges, and also a hammer. I'm gonna remove the outside one first and then the inside one second because the outside one's smaller, so it's just easier to get an angle on. As I take the bar, I'm gonna hit to go to the inside. Oh, also I'm using a wood bottom here, much better than a concrete, and also a towel there. The idea is just kind of go back and forth. I'm not going to reuse this race, so I don't have to worry too much about just a couple hits either side, and it'll slowly work its way out. When I first saw this, I thought I needed a tool that hit it at the same side so it wouldn't bind on each other, kind of twist and bind. But it doesn't. It's fine. Just going back and forth. It's almost out. Just a little bit more back and forth. There we go, and that one's out. Inside race. And for this one, as I work it down, it'll actually touch the wood before it totally goes out. But I just have it off the board and just free exposure so it's easier to see. And kind of see how it's down here and now it's touching the race is touching the cloth right here. The bar has enough length and weight that I believe I can just bang it with, let's see here. There we go. Oh, I'm going to try to have a little bit more space to clean up the inside. I'm going to just do a light coating of grease on the inside where the race will touch, outside of the race. Got my race setting tool fit right. This tool is aluminum, so it will not hurt the race. There we go. You hear the sound change. I'll just go around, kind of make sure it's fully set. Next side. And then, there you go. Sounds different. Yeah, make sure the angle is facing outwards. Otherwise you'll have to take them out again. The reason I didn't want to put too much grease in there is there are aluminum bits that can kind of fall off with the race tool. I'm gonna do another cleaning. Also, brake dust could fall in there, so I'm gonna clean it again before I pack this with grease and pack this middle spot with a whole lot of grease. Definitely want a lot of grease in between using high temp disc brake / wheel bearing grease. big glop grease right there, and I just go on the more open side and I just squeeze, squish, squish until, oh, there we go. So you're kind of squeezing out. There we go. Once it's there, I can go to another spot. Just pack it up. Here we go, fully packed. Just wipe around all the sections. Inside, where that gets the inside oil seal. These gloves might be shot. Use the race tool with the largest opening. Just clean. Yep. That was easy. Set the shaft a little bit. Get the back of this. Well, last time is quite simply to use a hammer, and right now it looks loose, but put pressure on both sides. That's nice. Rotates really good. Small bearing, glop. Okay. Through. Next section. This bearing is all packed up. Tap on this real quick. Get this bearing far enough in that I can get some threads on. That should be good. Got this end greased up. This worked pretty well last time. It's getting easier to put in, so probably it's almost fully set. And in a moment, probably torque down. There we go. There's no play at this point, but I really want to make sure it's fully set to really get it to the point where it's really tight and it. Okay, it's starting to slow down a little bit because this is about where I want, maybe a little less. Fully packed in there. Okay, so that's too much. But I really want to make sure it's set, so I'm going to keep on going. There we go, I got it really tight. It says you're supposed to do it to about 50 to 70 foot-pounds, and this is tight on there, so I think that's about right. So now I'm going to release some of that. So that's still too sticky. Still a little sticky. Okay, that's about right. This is where I want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and put the tightening bit on there, right here. And I might have to move it forward or back, but if I move it back a little bit, I'll still be happy with the tightness. And if I have to move it forward a bit, that's okay, but this is about the tightest I want to go. Got the screw hole lined up perfectly. It spins nice, but it's not too much or too little, and there's no play at all. Really solid. This lines up just like that. And this piece goes in the opposite direction, whereas all this goes vertical. There we go. Washer with the teeth on the inside. Wait, and the C-clip. The free running hub is packed, so I will put it back on. I'm putting the two free running hub screws / bolts in. Because I'm going to use blue Loctite, I want to get everything back in. I'm going to do it when tire's back in it. Remove the bungee gently. No reason to rush this. The knuckle to the brake assembly, just finger tight. 19mm, just to speed up. Set faster. To set the bolt into the threads, a little push up seems to help on the bottom there. I have it set to 60 foot-pounds. There we go. There we go. Let's remove this caliper. I'm going to use this bungee again. A clean towel, eye protection, and Do the same with the back side. Again, watch where you're spraying. Rotate. Clean spot. Here's the inside. Here's the outside. I'm gonna use some Loctite. Putting the plugs back on. Torque these on to 100 foot-pounds. And they're all hand tightened. Go back around. Nice. Gonna put on some Loctite. Tighten these down by hand. Put this down to 20 foot-pounds. Go around once more. Nice, time to clean up and take it for a drive. I've been driving my Pathfinder a couple of days and it's so much better with the bearings switched out. Driving on the freeway is straight and solid, not as much adjustments, and I can tell that I also did the oil change and my rear diff and the transfer case, and I also did the transmission. So I've done a lot of things for the actual drivetrain, but I can tell that I'm not pushing the throttle as much to drive, and going down hills I've gone down before, it accelerates more and it kind of continues the speed more. And this is not a highly aerodynamic vehicle, and there's a lot less resistance. And I think the majority of that, especially because I'm not in gear for a lot of that, because I'm just coasting, is because of these. If you're noticing your car is off or a little wobbling, definitely check out the front bearings. Check out the other video on the driver's side front bearing, a lot more troubleshooting, and also some of what doesn't need to be done. No, you don't need to take this piece off, so it's kind of worth the watch. Also, if you're up for it, check out my video on doing the alignment yourself. It's great, it's safe, but make sure you take your time, and if you don't feel comfortable, pay for an alignment, because even though the bearings didn't change the suspension bits, it did change how it rode, and it changes things when you take the bearings off, put it back on. Like more videos like this, let me know. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thumbs up would be helpful, and thanks. Have a great day.